Welcome to my first book wrap up of May. We're 4 days in and 4 books in, so let's get going on that. I read the book Persian Pickle Club by Sandra Dallas. This follows our protagonist, Queenie, in 1930s Dust Bowl era Kansas. She is part of a club called the Persian Pickle Club that is a quilting club. They meet together and quilt all day long, and they are wonderful friends, and a new member has just joined. Everything is shaken up a little when one of the members, her husband, had gone missing a year before and now has been found dead, buried in a field. So we have a murder mystery aspect. The new member of the club wants to solve this murder, and she is determined that she is going to. So it has all the ingredients for a really fun time. So I gave this book about 3 stars. It was a fun book. It was a fun light read. The murder mystery part was just not very compelling for me. I didn't feel like I had to know what happened at the end, although the ending was cute. I did enjoy that. It also had quite a bit of racially charged language and stereotypes about people of color and migrant workers, which were not very well addressed, and I feel like could have maybe normalized that type of behavior instead of calling it out. I understand this was a illustration of 1930s Kansas, which probably explains most of that, but I do think it's worthwhile to through a modern lens, look back and determine whether we find that kind of thing acceptable. And I just don't know if that subject was treated with the right amount of care by the author. But this book was still very light. That was not a major part of the book, but it did come up a few times and did leave me feeling a little unsettled. I read Minor Feelings, An Asian American Reckoning by Kathy Park Hong. And this is a collection of essays from the daughter of Korean immigrants. It is a great look into her life. She also has some essays delving into American history and also has some essays that focus on people that have inspired her and that she has learned about over the years. This is a really great look into the life of an Asian American and how her experience isn't universal, but it does illustrate some systemic issues that we have in our culture in the United States. So I will give this one about 3.5 stars. While it was a great look into her life, the structure of the book lacked a bit of narrative. I understand it was a collection of essays, but I have read some other books that are collections of essays that I feel like have a more central theme, and this seemed a little scattered to me. I did enjoy individual essays a lot, but overall I felt a little scattered, so 3.5 stars. So I read the book Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and wow, 5 stars. It is such a good read and so hard to get through. I want to cry just thinking about it. This follows Chanel Miller. If you remember the highly publicized case of her assault by Brock Turner on Stanford campus, this is her story in her words, and it is heartbreaking and amazing to see her strength through what can only be described as just a nightmare. It was horrible, not only her assault, but going through the justice system after, and it really exposes the problems with the criminal justice system in matters of sexual assault and rape, and how that is not well addressed and how it's re-traumatizing. And if you ever wonder why didn't someone report this earlier and those types of things, read this book. You will completely understand why it is a very difficult decision to try to go through the legal system on these types of things, and how we need to have some systemic changes to be able to treat victims of assault, of sexual assault with dignity. There's a quote that she says. She said, "The judge had given Brock something that would never be extended to me, empathy. My pain was never more valuable than his potential." And it was horrible to read about, but so well written. She not only has a story to tell, has a perspective to share, but her writing is beautiful and meaningful and deep. Just to finish off, I want to share one quote from her. She says, "I survived because I remained soft, because I listened, because I wrote, because I huddled close to my truth, protected it like a tiny flame in a terrible storm. Hold up your head when the tears come, when you are mocked, insulted, questioned, threatened, when they tell you you are nothing, when your body is reduced to openings. The journey will be longer than you imagined. The trauma will find you again and again. Do not become the ones who hurt you. Stay tender with your power. Never fight to injure, fight to uplift. Fight because you know that in this life you deserve safety, joy, and freedom. Fight because it is your life, not anyone else's. I did it. I am here. Looking back, all the ones who doubted or hurt or nearly conquered me faded away, and I am the only one standing. So now the time has come. I dust myself off and go on." She explains that it's not a happy ending, but it's because it's not an ending. She is going to keep going, and I found it inspiring, and also I wanted to throw it against the wall. I do recommend. I read the book, but I wish that I had listened to the audiobook. I have heard that it was read by the author, and I think that would be very impactful. I read the book Eat a Peach by David Chang. It was a really fun memoir. If you don't know who he is a celebrity chef who was on the show Ugly Delicious. And it was a very interesting look into his life. It was mostly a memoir, but could read as a bit of a how to get into the restaurant industry. I enjoyed myself, but I found myself getting kind of bored on some of the tangents onto how to get involved in restaurant work. It wasn't very applicable to me. He had some interesting life experiences and some heartfelt stories dealing with his mental illness. He has bipolar disorder and dealing with that and depression, and how he got through that. It was very interesting to read, but I also didn't feel like I connected to him or really understood his worldview. He was very brash, is very into yelling at people to get his point across, which I don't think I would enjoy meeting him, but his restaurant sounded lovely and I would love to eat at any of them. I give this about 3.5 stars. If you are a fan of David Chang, by all means, read this book. If you have never heard of him, maybe give it a pass. Well, thanks for coming along with me on my book wrap-up part 1 of May. Look for another video in the next couple weeks. We'll see how many I get out this month.